Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unanswered Questions. Sometimes during our live broadcasts, we don't get enough time to answer all the questions from students. So what we're going to do is we're going to answer some of those questions we didn't get to here in this video for June and May, as June was a bit of a shorter month because schools are coming to a close.
Speaking of shorter, I'm a little taller today. I'm feeling taller.
Yeah, I built a little platform for you.
Yeah, Brandon's he's like 6'1" or 6'2", and I'm 5'10", so we need to even things out. So I'm standing on this platform right now. It's kind of funny, actually. I'm actually looking down on him, which is a first that's ever happened in about 15 years. Right?
Yeah, it's just easier for production and editing, and yeah.
Kind of funny what you can do behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Oh well.
Anyways,
if I fall over and break my neck, it's your fault.
we'll have it on recording. First question from a student. Is the pornado a real problem?
I'll answer that one because in our high school program, they had a little bit of humor into a tough topic, which is online porn. I talk about this thing called a pornado, and that's where, you're online, you push a link thinking it's going to take you someplace, and all of a sudden you hit this porn site and you try to get out of it, and every time you click a button, boink, another boink, 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 and it's like you're caught in this pornado. And the answer is yes. I mean, if you accidentally hit one of those sites and then you try to exit out, you just get hit with more sites. So that's why we call it the pornado.
Yeah, it's definitely not as prevalent as it used to be in the past.
No.
A lot of browsers are pretty good at sort of removing those massive pop-ups. At most, maybe you're going to get, I don't know, a couple pop-ups potentially, but definitely not as bad as it used to be. Is it bad to threaten people in League of Legends? I personally think they deserve it.
Well, you don't, but the person who wrote that message said that, right? So the way you said it, it sounds like you just said, I personally think they deserve it. No, that's what the person wrote us, right?
I guess it really depends on what you're calling as a threat. I mean, people interpret threats in various different ways. There's a difference between, threat in a game that, I'm going to get you or etc. compared to I'm going to come to your house and do bad things, right? There's a difference between like a legal threat and like, just, in-game banter. If you draw yourself nude, is it illegal?
It'll be ugly, horrible for me if I was to do something like that. But is it illegal? Well, yeah. Here, I can speak for Canada. We've got several court decisions now that share that anime is a good example. If you're drawing anime of a person under the age of 18 showing any of its genitalia, then the courts see that to be the production of child sexual abuse material or child pornography, right? But we call it child sexual abuse material now. So the answer is in Canada, yes. Depends upon what state you are in the U.S., but I would imagine most states would probably find the same thing.
But you probably here in Canada fall under the private use exception.
Right. If it's just for you.
Yeah.
But if you send it to anybody, then you're in trouble.
Yeah. It's the same thing if a teen takes their own nude selfie, it's not like they get arrested and thrown into jail.
Right.
If they're weaponizing it, different story. Now that also different states, different countries do have different laws on that.
Right. I mean, that's one of the blessings that we have up here in Canada, right? Like we have one criminal code that applies to every province and every territory. Where in the United States, they have different laws for different states, and what's legal in Seattle may not be legal in Portland, Oregon, right? Like it's kind of weird that way, but hey, whatever.
Can hackers see me on Roblox?
Oh, that's in your wheelhouse.
Well, they can see you as much as any other person, player, scammer. Anyone who's on there can see you in the space that you're in. It's not like hackers have super secret back-end access into Roblox, at least that we know about. And Roblox generally has good security and policies in place to prevent that. So probably not any more than anyone else.
Yeah, agreed.
What should you do if you accidentally enter the dark web?
Okay, I'm going to answer that one. You can't accidentally enter the dark web. You have to purposely go there by using something like Tor or the Onion browser, right? So you purposely have to go into the dark web. Right now, you could accidentally go into the deep web. I mean, the dark web is a part of the deep web, right? It's the biggest part of the internet. And a lot of people go there like if they're doing an online transaction, right? A lot of stuff that you're doing online when transactions happen in the deep web. Why? Because it's more secure. But going into the dark web where a lot of the ugly stuff is, you can't do that by accident, right? It has to be done on purpose.
What are some good ways for teens to get out of an internet addiction?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that one as well. As you know, I've got a real problem with this thing called addiction. I know there's a lot of debate on that, but in my 30 years in law enforcement, I saw what true addiction looks like, be it alcohol, drugs, other substances, and that kind of stuff. So I truly, and I think most of the good academic peer-reviewed research shows that you can't get addicted to the internet, but you can create bad habits.
Yeah, or I think what we're seeing more clinically is like compulsions is more the term used.
Like habits.
Yeah.
Or problematic behavior.
I think the biggest mistake was when gaming, like gambling addiction, was labeled that way. And that was in the old days when the understanding of chemical substances and addiction itself was really new research. I think if we were to reclassify, gambling addiction, it'd probably be more classified as
problematic
compulsions.
Yeah, problematic habitual behavior, right?
Yeah.
So, but one of the ways to deal with that is change habits. So, a lot of these issues can be changed by changing habits. And that's what it's all about. I also think that what the good research is now showing us is that balance is everything when it comes to this topic, right? When it comes to problematic behavior, it's because of overbalance, right? People are doing too much of one thing. And as a result of that, bad habits can form.
Yeah, I remember back in my post-secondary education days.
Many years ago. When you were shorter.
I've always been pretty tall.
Yeah, that's true.
That forming new habits can take about 2 weeks of like conscious, like dedicated focus. But it's about like a 2-week process at minimum.
But, one of the things I always say to people, my son is addicted to the cell phone, or my child is addicted to Fortnite. A lot of times I'll say to those people, why don't you come with me and I'll go down to the 800, 900 block of Pandora here in Victoria. I'll take you to the skids in Vancouver so you can see what real addiction looks like. Right? Because there's a definite difference, right? So anyways, I'll get off my high horse, which I'm standing on right now.
Can I hold my friend responsible for saying something inappropriate to me on PlayStation Party Chat? PlayStation and other gaming networks as well are building in features to hold people accountable. Like with PlayStation, I know they reported a few years ago, they have a feature that your conversations are being recorded, held in memory for a couple days. So if something does go wrong, you can make an application, you can make a report, and then the conversation sent to an administrator, someone to, make a determination on that. So, and if you have a copy of what people were saying, well, you can copy it, print it, and share it to any proper authorities if something potentially illegal did happen.
And a lot of time it violates the actual platform's terms of service. So what's important is that I always recommend when you're going to report it, copy the part of the terms of service that it's breaching. So copy that. And then send that with the link to where what is being said or done is in breach of that terms of service, right? Because what I found is that when I was working with clients, a lot of these platforms don't search it out. You have to basically spoon feed them the information. So that's what I recommend. Copy the terms of service component of the TOS that is being breached, and then attach the link to where that breach is happening and report it.
How can I support a friend after calling 911 to stop self-harm, even if they're angry at me now?
Yeah, I'll take that one. One of the things I always say to youth and young adults is that there's only so much that we can do as young people. Sometimes we have to turn to older adults to help friends that are in need. And so if you're trying to help your friend and your friend isn't seeking out that help and not doing what they should be doing, then I always recommend that it's up to you now to connect with a trusted adult, whoever that may be. Now, is your friend going to be mad at you that you did that at the time? Absolutely. But understand that when a person is in that state, they're not thinking clearly. And as a result of that, they need people like you who are thinking clearly to look out for them. And I can't tell you how many times we've heard back from people that we've worked with who said, yeah, you're right there. And my friend was really, really mad at me. But later on, when they got to a good place, they actually came back and said, thank you, because you did something that I didn't know that I had to get done. And because of you, it helped me, right? So, yeah.
Do you find it disappointing that we even have to talk about this in relation to nude images?
Yeah. We've been talking about nude images forever, right? It's happened throughout the ages, right? Like, when I was in high school, we didn't have the internet. I know that's hard to believe. But we didn't have cell phones, but we had Polaroids. We had Polaroid cameras, and some of the kids are going, what are those, right? But we used to take nude pictures of ourselves and share them with one another, but then we used to cut them up and burn them.
Or tape cassettes.
Yeah, or tape cassettes or, Blu-ray discs, VHS tapes and that kind of stuff. But yeah, we need to talk about it because I think sometimes what happens with technology is that disinhibition effect is that because we're not face to face with somebody, we kind of lose sight of some of the checks and balances that are in place when we're face to face with somebody because of that disinhibition effect. So because of that, we do need to talk about this issue because the reality is that nudes can sometimes become problematic. Although most don't. I mean, the good research shows us a lot of nudes that are shared, they don't get weaponized, they don't become public. But we know that there is a percentage that does. And when those things go public, they can destroy young people's lives. But I think when it comes to talking nudes, I think it's more about we need to start focusing more on the offender rather than the victim or the survivor, right? Because I find that a lot of public service announcements, we concentrate more on don't sex, don't send nudes. And, well, that's kind of what we should be saying to people is, you know what? If you do post publicly a nude or a sex without the consent of the other person in that picture or video, then you're breaking the law, right? That's what we should be doing. But no, I do think we need to talk about this more.
What are your thoughts on Mozilla's VPN? I haven't heard anything bad. I have no experience with it. I mean, the ones we've had experience with is PIA, Private Internet Access, and Nord. Those are two that we've had experience with. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, I mean, Mozilla is a pretty reputable company, but I couldn't speak any to the particulars of that VPN.
It's the brother of Godzilla.
Did you get Mozilla?
I mean, the thing with VPNs is one of the things we recommend is stay away from free VPNs, right? Because free VPNs, they collect your information and sell it, and they have a habit of slowing down the internet connection. If you're going to go with a VPN, go with a premium one that you're going to pay for, but make sure you do your research. Because one of the things I learned from Brandon is even some of these paid versions, they still store your information, right? So you got to make sure that you pick one that is privacy enabled.
Yep. Speaking of VPNs, students are using VPN apps to get around school Wi-Fi restrictions. Can schools stop this?
One word.
I have a feeling this was probably a teacher who asked a question doing a student broadcast.
One word. No. It's a big cat and mouse game between the IT people in school districts and students because as soon as the school identifies a VPN and blacklists it, then the kids just use a different VPN, right?
Yeah, you're going to have to, it's going to be based on policy, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of when a device is allowed to be used, when it's the appropriate use of that device, and what can and can you not do on that device. That's what it comes down to. And if you are a school that is a BYOD school, which means students bring their home devices, laptops, Chromebooks into the classroom, and it's not a school-owned, managed device, you can't control. The way to truly control that is you as a school or district issues a device owned by the school, controlled by the school, to each student. But that costs money.
And I think the other thing is that too many, adults think that VPNs are this bad thing, right? Like, kids are using it to bypass stuff. Well, no, it's also important. We actually think it's a really cool thing because, number one, it encrypts all your messaging, so it makes it harder if it's intercepted. And number two, it helps to protect your location. So it prevents creeps online from figuring out where you live in the world, right? Which is an issue in today's online world.
And some advocates in some regions around the world when it comes to reproductive health, when it comes to tracking women in terms of so there is a lot of really good uses for VPNs, especially when people might be looking and analyzing your data.
I mean, the reality is most teens are using them to bypass school filters,
and
right?
That too.
I mean, that's the primary reason. However, once they hear from us that it's also good from a safety and security standpoint, they kind of go, oh yeah. I mean, again, it's about digital literacy. It's about teaching young people and even adults about what VPNs are and how they can work for you. But it's like any other tool, you can use it for good or bad, right?
Yeah. Is Surfshark a good VPN? I've seen their advertising. I have no direct experience with them. Again, the ones we've used here have been PIA and Nord, but Surfshark has been around for quite a while, and they have a lot of good advertising, so I'm assuming they're probably pretty decent. I haven't heard anything bad. What can happen if I use Safari or public Wi-Fi for banking? There used to be, this was a bigger issue maybe, 10, 15 years ago, around the security, the connection between you and your bank. Are there still potential issues of someone piggybacking or hijacking your signal wirelessly in a public hotspot? Yes, it's much more difficult today than it was years ago, but I would say just for best practice, if you are connecting to a sensitive network like a bank or something.
While you're using a Starbucks open Wi-Fi.
Right.
That's where a VPN can come in.
VPN is very important for that. Or if you're able to use your cellular data off your phone, that's going to be the best practice. Yeah. It's not very likely something bad will happen because you would have to have like a hacker in that cafe with you, which is very unlikely, but it is.
I mean, the simple rule is that if you're using an open Wi-Fi, danger, 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 right? You're leaving information that you're sending accessible. So lock it down. Use if you're using your home Wi-Fi, make sure it's locked down. And number 2, use a VPN, or even better, just use the data on your phone rather than Wi-Fi, because most of you have data plans now where it's unlimited data, right? Yep. So.
Do likes on TikTok and Instagram get tracked?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And different social networks will share that information with the creators at which you like their content on. Some platforms don't do that. So, but yeah, anything you press, the amount of seconds you spend on a TikTok, like that's tracked by the TikTok algorithm.
Because then they'll feed you more videos that are similar to that, knowing that it keeps your eyes on their platform, right?
Yep. If you like
dark patterns,
if you like a YouTube video, can someone see your account? YouTube is one of those networks that if you like a video, it doesn't inform the creator that, hey, you liked it. It kind of just goes into a massive like number count of the likes. But YouTube, and which is Google, I mean, they know all that data. So
a lot of people don't know that, right? A lot of people don't know that YouTube is owned by Google.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. There've been a lot of talks of splitting those two up.
Yeah.
How do people learn to hack or scam? And can hackers be doing it for a good reason?
Go for it, dude.
People learn how to hack through different strategies. One, they can be self-taught, or they can go to post-secondary and get certificates and education more formally. Can they do it for a good reason? Well, yeah, there are good hackers who work for Microsoft, Apple, the government.
Pen testers too, right?
To test systems using the same strategies as the bad guys to fix any issues.
Yeah, it's big business right now. Like there's a lot of companies out there that are hiring young people who are able to hack for the purpose of doing penetration testing of organizations to make sure that their security is up and in place, right?
Yeah.
Pays good money.
Do they do it for good? Well, yeah. I mean, that's the purpose. Now, there are sometimes unsanctioned good hackers who
red teams.
No, not even that. Just, people who break the law for a good cause.
Right.
But yeah, they're using, it gets very, some people call it gray hat. But for me, if they are truly doing something that they shouldn't be doing, then, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It's technically law's the law.
If you're in the gray, you're doing things you shouldn't be doing, right?
Yeah.
So,
what if you play a game made by a hacker? Well, yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, just because someone is a good hacker or a bad hacker, they could have a side project of making a game that can be completely legitimate. Honestly, the game is probably better secured.
Yeah.
Right? Right. That, from my perspective.
But the other challenge though is if you go onto a game that was developed by a hacker, how do you know that when you're on that game is not dumping some form of malware into your system?
How do you know any game's not doing that?
That's true. I mean, but at DEF CON in Las Vegas every year, like the true experts who go there, they never bring their own devices, right? Never they bring their own devices, right?
If you have a password for a game, can the creator see it? No, yes and no. It depends. So it's really dependent on how the passwords are handled. In the old days, like really old days, yes, they could see it. Today, standard security practices are they're salted, they're hashed. So no, even the creator can't see it. Although that does depend on the encryption level they have on the passwords, if it's a good encryption or not. But most big name games and networks, they have standard security practices. And if they don't, they usually get found out pretty quickly and they make changes. How do people hack without guessing your password? Well, they could trick you. They could call you or text you asking for your password, pretending to be Apple or Microsoft. You could install a bad program that has a virus that's watching all your keystrokes. Or maybe you use a password many different times on many different networks, and maybe there's a network that had a hack and people's passwords were leaked on the internet.
Check out I've been pwned.
Yes.
Online. Like just Google I've been pwned.
Yeah, so those are the 4 strategies. They just guess it, they trick you, they hack you, or it's just out there and they are reusing an old password. How do they code phones? Well, a phone is coded like, I'm not a phone coder. I don't make phone operating systems, so I don't know the granular details of that. But from what I understand, it's like coding up Windows or Mac. It's a lot of work. Often it takes a lot of different programs working together to kind of create your system.
And it depends. Is it an Android device or an Apple device, right? So.
Yep. Have you ever been hacked or scammed?
No.
Well, I've been online gaming now for quite a long time. So I've had really old gaming accounts of mine that have been like hacked. Not because I had like a bad password, but because the gaming company went out of business. Their servers were not updated. So someone found a flaw. Not because I made a mistake, just because the company who had my account had a mistake. Is hacking illegal?
It depends. If you're a pen tester and the company's paying you to do it, not illegal, right? Because you got consent to do it. However, if you're hacking somebody's system without their consent, illegal.
Is hacking a real job or a profession?
Yes, it can be. Yeah, for sure. Big business right now with respect to pen testing, right? Security and all those types of issues.
What's the difference between a scammer and a hacker? I tend to use those words interchangeably when I'm working with audiences because people have similar or different reactions to those different terms. But that's a really good question. For me, a hacker is someone who actually goes into the code and sort of breaks the code in a simple way. A scammer uses a lot more of tricks and lies and psychological strategies to have you as the user give up your password or send money to the wrong spot. Yeah. Scammer doesn't necessarily, sometimes to get a scammer can be a hacker
together. That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think a hacker is more about the code kind of thing. A scammer is what they do with the code.
Yeah.
Right. So a hacker can be a scammer and a scammer can also be a hacker, right? It's bi-directional.
Yeah.
That's a good word, eh? Bi-directional. Yeah.
How can you find out if someone is pretending to be someone else online?
We've written several articles how to be your own detective, but it's getting harder and harder today because of all the deep fake stuff that's going on with AI, right? So
and a lot of people want to hide their identity too. Some people don't want to use their real face or their real name. Yeah. I tend to assume everyone's innocent until proven guilty. Yeah. Just because someone is using a different name or using a different persona doesn't mean they're a bad person. If they're doing bad things, different story.
Yeah.
And how do you know if someone online is a good person?
I think most people who I meet online are actually good people, right? Like I think the majority of people online are good people. You're always going to have, it's like the general population. When you're walking down the street, most of the people that you see walking down the street are good people. Are there going to be some predators out there who want to prey upon you for crime? Sure there's going to be, right? So really it's no different when you're online. And I mean, that's another reason why I say that There is no separation anymore. Like, especially for kids today, it's just one world. Like, adults see a difference between the online world and the offline world. To the kids, it's just one world, or what we call the on life world. So most people on life with kids today are decent people, right? They truly are. They just want to interact with you. That's why social media is so attractive. But like anything else, there are always going to be a small population that want to prey upon you for a crime, whatever that crime may be.
Everyone's innocent until proven guilty, but that doesn't mean I trust everyone with my bank account.
Correct. Yeah.
What's the benefit of giving a kid a phone before the age of 16?
Type 1 diabetes, right? Maybe they're using the phone for the purposes of to monitor their blood sugars for the purposes of their insulin pump,
Yep.
right? Another reason, maybe it's a teen parent who's got a child, and that teen parent, and yes, there have been teen parents I've met who are 16. Maybe they need a phone to stay in contact with whoever the caregiver is of that child while that teen is now in school. There's another good reason. Maybe it's also the type of phone that you're giving the child, right? You know, rather than giving them a fully functioning iPhone or Android phone, maybe think about giving them a minimalist phone, like a pinwheel phone or a Wise phone, where parents can still, and the child can still connect with parents in time of an emergency. So those are some of the benefits, right?
Maybe a student is walking home to school and they take a bus to school, like a public transit bus, or maybe that a younger teen is going out in the town to hang out with friends. There's tons of reasons why having a connection can be important.
For sure.
Is it bad to friend someone you don't know online?
No. I mean, but it's like anything else. Get to know them first. Right? It's kind of like you're at a party, you meet somebody, do you friend them right away? No. You get to know them first, and once you get to know them, then you kind of become buds, right?
There's different levels of friendship.
Exactly, right? So, I mean, that's why they call it social media, because the whole goal is to be social with one another. But the caveat to that is, unfortunately, there are going to be wolves in sheep's clothing who want to try to convince you that they are your friend when, in fact, they're your frenemy.
But they're online or offline.
Correct. Right?
Yeah.
So.
At what point does insulting become aggression?
Yeah, I think once you move from rude, mean, or disturbing behavior, and now you're moving into the threatening behavior, that's a form of pure aggression. That now becomes illegal.
Yeah, I see. I would still say insulting is aggression. Right? Someone is being aggressive; they're being mean and rude. I see aggression as being mean and rude to a degree. It's once that mean, rude behavior now becomes criminal activity. That's something very different. Mm-hmm. But I do think a lot of people get confusing in regards to bullying. Is it mean or rude, or is it illegal? Those are two very different things, and they're handled very differently.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
Can you go to prison for insulting someone badly in a video game?
Probably not.
It depends on the laws in your local region.
Yeah.
But
probably not.
Police have far more
pressing matters
to deal with.
I mean, it depends upon what that insulting somebody badly is. Context is going to be everything. It also depends upon who the individual is. Like, does the individual have a past history of doing this stuff with others, right? Maybe they have a past criminal history, right? So again, context and individual is going to be everything. But in most cases, probably not.
Is it a threat to life? Well, that's something very, very different. So again, I view insulting as you suck, right? That's how I see that.
Yeah.
But I think some people can, that word's really open to interpretation.
Yeah, for sure. Context, individual's background is going to be everything there.
Can someone see you through Rocket League or Roblox? Well, like most games, I've only played Rocket League a few times, Roblox as well. Roblox really isn't my game of choice. I'm more of like a classic Minecraft person myself. But, with Roblox and League, with Rocket League, yes, you have a gaming profile. Often that's either attached to your Steam or your network you're playing on, and it's about your privacy settings. It's not like someone's going to know where you live because you play Rocket League. Mm-hmm. Although if you give information in the game, if you're sharing information in a public chat in Roblox, so, oh yeah, my name is this and this is where I live, well then, yeah.
Another reason why to use a VPN when you're playing games, because then if they try to ping your address, they're not going to know where it is.
Yep,
right?
that as well. So, yeah, people know as much about you as what you put into the platform that you're on.
Or others. Sometimes others can put a lot of stuff in the platform that you don't know about. Right?
True.
Frenemies.
Why do people ask for nudes?
Go for it.
Well, there's a couple reasons. If we're talking about someone who's like a predator or an exploiter, someone who wants to trick a person for a nude so that they can use it to go, hey, give me money or I'm going to leak it. So that can be a financial interest.
Another one would be, I know high school students who do it for wins, right? How many nudes you got? I got 2. Really? I got 7, right? Like, so they use it for wins or what they call status. That's another reason why they'll ask you for nudes.
Sometimes teens, older teens in high school who are in an intimate physical relationship send nudes because they're already physically intimate with each other. So that's not far of a leap for them to then move and send nudes between each other.
Well, those are the 3 basic reasons, right? I'm sure there's several others out there. I mean, yeah.
When is it legal to send a nude in a relationship?
So we can speak to Canada.
Yeah,
right?
It depends where you live.
So in Canada, we have the criminal code, which is a national criminal code, applies to every province, every territory. And basically, here's what it says. If it's 2 teens under the age of 18 in a private consensual relationship that is not exploitive in nature, and they're sharing those pictures within the private relationship consensually, not illegal. However, if anybody in that relationship now takes that picture or video and sends it or shows it outside of the relationship without the consent of the other person in that relationship, illegal. And they could be charged with the distribution of child sexual abuse material or the distribution or the non-consensual distribution of intimate images. So that's basically what the law says.
And that's usually within age of consent.
Right.
So whatever the age of consent, mostly how the law operates is depending on how old you are and how you are legally allowed to consent to a relationship with another person.
And in Canada, there's close in age exception rules. So if you actually go to our website, which is
whitehatter.ca,
you'll actually go scroll down under references or resources. You'll see sexting. Click on it. We kind of talk about all the age exceptions and close in age ranges, and it's all explained there.
Yeah. The moment you add sexuality to technology, things get very confusing and very messy very quickly.
Yeah. Things aren't always as black and white as what people think they are, right? There's all shades of gray.
Yeah. Is there a difference between a nude pic and a pic? No. And how they're seen in the eyes of the law and enforcement and the courts, they're all the same.
And in fact, you did some research and found that sometimes semi-nude pictures can also be declared as intimate images, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things get messy very quickly.
Yeah.
So, no, for us, a nude pic and a pic are the same. Are there AI filters that can see under clothing? It's not like X-ray vision that you get an actual representation of what's underneath the clothing.
I can't buy glasses like that?
No. I mean, I don't know. Ask the CIA. I don't know.
You actually did a huge article on the nudification apps. And
that's our most popular YouTube video.
I mean, I remember you telling me how this one reporter with the CBC National, I think it was, where they gave you permission. They sent you a full picture of them head to toe, and they gave you permission to go ahead and nudify it. And you kind of gave them the warning, like, really, you want me to do this? No, you got my consent. Go ahead and do it. And you did it. And it's like, even the cameraman was going, holy moly, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah, I was definitely making sure I covered the consent bases there. Like, are you sure this is going to be the result?
Yeah, exactly.
And
I think even they were a little, holy moly.
Yeah. How illegal is it to look at nudes when you're under the age of 18? Context is going to be important there.
Yeah, context is everything. I mean, the reality is, teens are sexual beings. That is the elephant in the room. And so because of that fact, we need to start talking to them more about what the difference is between healthy human sexuality and pornography. Because the reality is, in today's online world, kids are going to come across pornography. Now, the problem that we have is that we've now met 10 teens, 6 who identified as male, 4 who identified as female, and all 10 of them were habituated to online pornography. right? And so it became problematic for them to the point now where all 10 of them are in therapy to help them deal with that issue.
Yeah.
So, if you're just looking at pornography and that pornography is somebody over the age of 18, even if you're 16, is that illegal? No.
At least here in Canada. I know some places are trying elsewhere in the world are trying to make it illegal for you to access any of that kind of stuff, or make it illegal for the company who's providing you that.
However, if you're a teen and you're looking at nudes online or pornography online of the person who's under the age of 18, that's accessing child sexual abuse material. That is illegal. Again, context is going to be everything when it comes to that issue.
What happens when AI movies clone actors as avatars?
It's happening already.
Do companies own their likeness?
That's what the big argument is right now. There's some court battles going on over there.
There is. I think right now, at least the court cases and the union contracts we've seen so far is the actors or their estates are the ones that own the likeness by default. But there are studios who are trying to write contracts. You can sign away your likeness for them to use in perpetuity for the future. So I do know there are lawsuits and there are unions working against that. So by default, the actors have their likeness. But the thing is, that's for North American studios, right? What I fear, or what I predict in the future is, what about a movie studio or an AI movie studio using the likeness of Tom Cruise, but they produce the content in a country that doesn't respect North American copyright law?
Oh, that'll never happen.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do
That'll
about
never
it?
happen.
Yeah, sure. You can sue a North American company for using AI, but you're gonna do that to a company in the middle of nowhere,
like Russia.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm assuming Russian courts won't care about copyright here in North America.
China.
Yeah. So
just saying.
We can stop it right now for North, but then that leaves the question, does that leave, if we put restrictions on North American companies, does that leave North American businesses at now a disadvantage for companies in countries that have no restrictions on AI?
I mean, have you noticed that both in the United States, the Trump administration has taken off all restrictions on AI. In fact, they're pushing it. And here in Canada, our new digital minister has basically said, "Hey, listen, we're opening up AI, right? Because if we don't, we're gonna be playing second fiddle for that very reason."
Well, I remember a few years ago it was India, I believe, who publicly came out and said, "Hey, we don't want to put any restrictions because we want our businesses to outcompete North American businesses." So.
And this segues very nicely into the last question, right?
How bad can AI be? Well,
and it's AI is just a tool. It's like any other tool. It can be used for good or bad. I mean, in the presentations we do, we give a number of examples where teens, like there was a group of high school teens that figured out a treatment for brain cancer using AI, like teens, not doctors, teens, right? Mm-hmm. There's this another one that I'm showing now where this teen in high school has developed a neural network that allows them to operate a remote control arm now. I mean, it rivals Elon Musk's new brain thing, right? And this kid, he's like 16, 17 years old. But on the flip side of the coin, AI can be weaponized now. Like we talked about it when we come to deep fake, right? Nudes, other issues that we see going on, especially in today's world where we're all connected, where, there's AI videos out there that show world leaders saying things that they never said. And as a result of that, it could trigger a violent action like a war, or the issues surrounding how, because of AI, people who are doing bad things now have an excuse. I actually just wrote an article. I'm going to be publishing it tomorrow. They can now say, that wasn't me, that's AI. I didn't say that, even though they did. They can now say, well, that's not me, that's AI, which is now actually...
That's the classic excuse of, I was hacked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the same thing is now happening because it's AI has now... It's moving so quickly and it's become so affordable that, yes, I mean, Roger Stone is a good example of this. He was one of the first in the United States where he was caught on video saying something he shouldn't have. And the first thing he said, that's not me, that's AI. And that's before AI became really publicly available, right? But that pretext of saying something like that actually now puts the onus. And this is the other thing. I think it's going to put a lot more time and pressure on law enforcement now, because when they see video evidence, they're going to have to prove now that it wasn't AI generated.
Just not just law enforcement, but the court.
I know.
Any digital evidence you submit into a court, I think I wrote about this like years ago.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're going to have to review every piece of evidence carefully that's visual, be it pictures or video, to ensure it hasn't been altered. And I know a lot of smartphones now, they have AI built into the camera.
Yeah.
So the question is, if you take a photo of something as proof, but your camera has made AI changes, even just like visual aesthetically, how reliable is that media to be used as evidence?
It's interesting, right? Like much like the internet was transformative, AI is now transformative, right? Like it's transforming the world. And there's all kinds of good, but there's also bad. And unfortunately, the small component of the bad people are taking a good tool and weaponizing it, which now makes it like horrible for everybody, right? So
isn't that with any tool?
And that's my point.
Isn't that how certain
that's my point.
Large corporations use the law to their benefit, even though it doesn't benefit?
Did you watch the last John Oliver session where he talked about AI and AI slop?
This Monday?
The one that just
yesterday. No, I haven't seen Monday yet.
He talks about it. He dedicates a whole show to AI slop. That's what kind of prompted me to write this article that I wrote yesterday that I'm going to be publishing tomorrow. But they were saying that a lot of social media platforms now, like Pinterest is a good example, it's just being inundated with AI slop.
That is the dead internet theory.
Yeah.
Where basically it's a thought that the internet basically, no longer existed back in the early 2000s because it's just bots talking to each other.
Right.
Majority of the internet's what it is. So the internet is no longer alive. It's just a bunch of bots.
Like, it's interesting, right? Like when I was doing the research on this, a lot of Pinterest, like heavy Pinterest users now who are very, very dedicated to Pinterest and taking the time and the effort to put things together to make them look good, they're all getting fed up because they're saying that most of the stuff that's being posted there now is all AI generated, just AI slop. And so as a result of that, the platform in and of itself, they're losing interest in it. And they're trying to find platforms now where that's not going to be an issue. And I think that that's going to be maybe the next evolution is our social media platforms they're going to be platforms now that are going to be designed to help minimize AI slop. Right, so that it's still like more.
You would have to have an AI detection feature built into the network, so which is doable.
Like AI fighting AI, right? It's like the Terminator.
But that goes back to my previous question: is okay, you have an AI detector, but if you on your camera phone on your default camera is making adjustments to the image, then you submit that to that social network. Does it get flagged? Yeah.
It's so interesting, right? Like this AI, it's only been around really publicly for about a year and a half now, right? But it's just
I'd say ChatGPT came out during COVID, so that was 2021-ish.
Okay,
I think.
3-4 years, but it's really taken off over the past year and a half to 2 years. And I remember, teachers, we can't let students use ChatGPT because they're using it to plagiarize. And was that happening? Sure it was, but that's because nobody ever taught them about digital literacy. I just did an interview with a bunch of high school students, and I said, "Are you guys using ChatGPT?" And they said yes. And I said, "How are you guys using it?" They said, "It's my new Google." Like, I don't use Google anymore. And I said, why? Because they say when you use Google, number one, we know that Google's tracking us. Number two, they're flooding us with all kinds of ads. And all the links that pop up, a lot of them just aren't relevant to what it is I'm looking at, whereas ChatGPT is more surgical in nature.
Well, it's like for me, if I'm doing cooking, right? People traditionally would go to a website to look for a recipe. Yeah. But I would waste so much time scrolling through a recipe where someone in their paragraph goes, this was the best, this preamble, and then you got a couple pop-ups, got a couple ads, and then finally you get that recipe. Well, I just type in how to make this in ChatGPT. There you go. Yeah. Now, if I wanted a quick recipe, if I want to do my due diligence, I'd probably look at 5 recipes online and
it's called fact checking.
Combine the best of all the world.
That's called fact checking. That's called critical thinking.
Yeah.
See,
but that takes time, and time is money.
It is, but I think for the general population, especially teens, teaching them the skills now to understand and how to do that will help to combat the AI slop that's going on.
But how does that defend against the economy that values quantity over quality?
Or clicks, right?
Right? That is the market environment. That is the business. That is the corporate environment we live in.
Yeah.
Although we praise to have quality and do your fact checking, if you're working for a business and you're being paid by the hour, your employer is going to get more out of you.
Or the reason why AI slop is becoming, and I just learned this, right, the other day, just doing my research. The reason why AI slop is becoming so popular in places like Pinterest and some of the other sites is because the more clicks you get on it, the more money you're making off of certain websites, right, or social networks and stuff. So
time is money.
People are creating these videos that take seconds to develop and throwing, like, I don't know if you've seen the one where the Sasquatches. Have you seen that one? They're Sasquatches. Obviously, they're a couple of young 20-year-old guys, right? And they're these Sasquatches, and they're doing all kinds of weird and funny stuff, right? And they're getting millions of hits on it on places like YouTube. Well, those hits are generating money.
Yep.
Right.
Time is money. So honestly, I mean, ChatGPT and how we use it is more of a symptom of the economy and the social structures that we have today. Yeah. So in order to fix that, you kind of have to fix the root cause, which is the quantity over quality.
Or we have to adapt, overcome, and improvise, right?
Not if you're a business and you want more content.
But that's the problem. The problem that I think that's going to happen, like Amazon is a really good example. Amazon announced last week that over a third of their work staff are probably going to be let go in the next year and a half to 2 years because AI is going to be taking over many of their traditional white collar working jobs, right? What was it? One of the largest AI big players out there, I forget what the name of the CEO was, but he also announced that he predicts in 5 years, 2/3 of jobs that are traditionally in place today will not be around because of AI agents that will be taking over their jobs.
Yep.
Right. So, boy, did we ever go off on a tangent on that one. But we could talk about this forever. But these are the things that need to be discussed. And what I'm happy to see, especially for teens now, is how teachers, rather than fearing things like ChatGPT, they're educating themselves about it, creating pedagogical lesson plans, and then educating the kids. Because the reality, and the kids are also educating the educators on this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. It's about being an active user rather than a passive user, having intention behind what you engage with.
Yes.
Besides being the vehicle passenger and just letting it dictate for you. And, that's, I think that's the real key.
But it is interesting to see how many of the social networks, because we're on most of them, how many of them are now being flooded with AI slop, right? It's simply amazing, right? So,
On that note, obviously it's coming up to the summertime.
It is.
So that means we get to do some upgrades and rejig things here in the studio, go through our programs, make some updates, add some new programs.
We got some new programs coming.
And, but I do hope to have some more content on YouTube and get more information out there for more people. So do stick with us as we do hope to make YouTube more of a primary platform for people to learn from. We'll see you all next time.
See you, everybody.
Bye-bye for now.